The air inside the tomb shifted. Amira's lantern flickered, casting erratic shadows along the limestone walls. Hieroglyphs danced in the tremor of light, symbols of power, sacrifice, and something else: hunger. She paused, fingertips grazing a carved figure of a seated king, jaw unhinged, devouring a kneeling god. Her breath caught. This wasn't symbolic. This was a recipe. Behind her, Dr. Miriam Selket whispered, "It's true. The cannibal hymns. This is where they began." Amira turned slowly. This is where they began. Because this tomb didn't belong to a king. It belonged to her. And history had erased the queens who fed on gods. Millennia before Amira's flashlight pierced the dark, the desert sun crowned the heads of the first dynasties. Among the myths of sun gods and Nile floods, one story pulsed like a hidden vein: the tale of the blood queens, priestesses who rose to power through rites older than Ra. The pyramid texts etched in stone in Unis's tomb, the oldest religious writings in the world, were supposed to glorify male pharaohs. They spoke of divine consumption, of kings devouring gods to absorb immortality. But a closer reading hinted at something else. Buried beneath male titles were feminine suffixes, subtle but intentional. A quiet rebellion coded into the bones of language. Neferet was a name only whispered in the hidden shrines of Saqqara. Officially, she was a royal consort. In truth, she led a cult that performed rites meant to consume the essence of gods through flesh. Her priestesses would fast for 9 days, chant from obsidian bowls, and under a sliver of moon, consume sacred animals. Jackals for cunning, hawks for divine sight, and crocodiles for unstoppable force. Legend says Neferet once bit through the neck of a lion brought from Nubia, claiming she heard the breath of Sekhmet in its last roar. Her power only grew. Records of her abruptly cease, but bones in an unmarked tomb bear ritual cut marks, evidence of divine assimilation. Tia was born of famine and fire. As the old kingdom crumbled, she wandered the dead cities, gathering remnants of forbidden rituals. Her followers believed the gods had turned silent out of disgust, and only through ingestion could the divine return. Tia built the Vault of 9 Seals in the desert beneath Saqqara. Each seal bound to a god, each rite required a sacrifice. It is said she found a scribe who had translated the Book of the Dead in reverse, a man who spoke to the dead but forgot the living. Tia devoured his tongue and awoke days later, speaking unknown tongues. Her cult fell when royal soldiers razed her underground chamber, but she escaped. Her symbols appear on illicit amulets even today. A mouth sealed by 9 lines, each drawn in blood. Sitre was the least likely of all, a builder's daughter, poor and untrained. But fate dragged her into the mouth of something ancient. She fell into an abandoned shaft meant for an unfinished pyramid. Inside was no tomb, only walls that wept when touched and skeletons with elongated skulls. She returned changed, pale, ever bleeding from her palms. She did not eat. She inhaled incense and spoke in chords. Her cult built no temples, only voids. They whispered the old gods had names not fit for language, and Sitre had become their mouth. She disappeared into a necropolis beyond Thebes. Explorers speak of hearing her name in the wind there, and sometimes they disappear too. The sand had only just shifted enough to reveal the shaft. No satellite had seen it, no record noted it. Amira had arrived skeptical until the inscriptions started to speak to her. Dr. Selket recorded them obsessively, but Amira felt them. One morning she woke with ancient Egyptian etched into her thigh, a passage from the pyramid texts that had never been documented. At night she dreamt of women with obsidian knives and serpent eyes. They opened their mouths wide and swallowed fire. Amira woke choking on incense. Selket watched her with quiet approval. "You feel it, don't you?" "I don't believe in possession," Amira snapped. "It's not possession," Selket said. "It's inheritance." They descended deeper. The walls changed. No longer pure hieroglyphs, now proto-languages older than Sumer. The passage narrowed. Bones lined the sides, fused with the stone. The final chamber loomed ahead, an altar shaped like an open mouth. Above it, a single symbol, repeated 9 times. On the altar lay a skeleton, headless, mummified but fresh. 3 names were carved into its ribcage: Neferet, Tia, Sitre. And beneath them, Amira touched the edge of the altar. Her necklace, a charm from her grandmother, grew warm. It had always made her skin itch. Now it burned. Selket's voice dropped. "You wore that even as a child, didn't you?" Amira turned. "How do you know that?" Selket smiled, but her eyes were wrong. The pupils were gone, replaced by shifting hieroglyphs, serpents, mouths, knives. "You were always the last," Selket whispered, stepping back. The air trembled. The ground glowed with script no human hand had ever carved. Amira stumbled as her vision blurred. Blood dripped from her palms, but there was no wound. On the altar, the skeleton stirred. Selket opened her mouth wide, too wide. A scream gurgled from her throat, then laughter. Not hers. Older. Deeper. The altar cracked. The bones sat upright. A voice echoed through the tomb, not from the air, but from inside Amira's head. "We are hungry." And Amira finally remembered. Before she was a queen, Neferet was a child of the temple. Her mother died bearing her during the flooding of the Nile, and she was raised among incense and scrolls. Even as a girl, she questioned the gods, not their power, but their justice. When she came of age, she rejected the priesthood of Isis and joined the cult of Emmet, the devourer of souls. It was said she slit her own tongue in offering, only for it to heal, forked. She spoke in the dark tongue from then on, understood only by the highest initiates. She orchestrated her rise into the royal household by seducing a fading king, not with her beauty, but with her knowledge of the gods' true appetites. At her urging, royal feasts began to feature strange dishes, salted falcon hearts, roasted ibises with inscriptions carved into their bones. The pyramid texts record a mysterious elevation of a consort to the title, Divine Intermediary. That was Neferet. And when the king died under strange circumstances, his heart missing, she ruled behind the veil. Her tomb was hidden by her followers. In it, no gold, only bones, some human, many not. Tia's magic was not drawn from ritual, it was pulled from the cracks in the world. She wandered plague-struck cities, gathering forbidden texts and whispered hymns. She drank the blood of execution victims, saying it carried the last truth. The 9 seals were not objects, they were people, each bound to a god, each consumed body and soul by Tia over 9 months. Seal 1, Hathor's singer, who laughed as she was dismembered. Seal 5, an astronomer who claimed he saw stars blink in fear. Seal 9, a baby born during a solar eclipse, marked with glyphs on her spine. When the seals were broken, the sky cracked. A comet fell, and the Nile turned red for 7 days. Tia stood naked on a temple roof, eyes white with vision, shouting a prophecy that ended with the words, "And from her mouth will come the hunger." They tried to silence her. Her tongue was cut, but it grew back. Citre's transformation was slow. She began by painting strange symbols on her body, symbols that shifted when unobserved. She began to sing in multiple voices, sometimes harmonizing with herself in frequencies that made birds fall from the sky. She would place her head against the tomb walls and murmur, as if listening. One day she announced the location of an ancient city that had never been found. She said it was not of man or God, but before them. Her cultists shaved their heads and filed their teeth. They said true speech could only happen without lies, and that speech was a taste. Sitre claimed she was impregnated by a dream, that the child born would be a god who devoured gods. She disappeared before giving birth. A burial shroud was found years later, soaked in milk and blood, covered in glyphs for return and mouth. Amira's dreams worsened. She saw herself in another body, draped in gold, kneeling before a stone mouth. She spoke in a voice layered with others. She ate something still moving. Selket became cold, distant. She whispered phrases in Amira's ear when she thought she slept. Words like succession and consumption. When they reached the final antechamber, Amira began to shake. Her grandmother's charm, something she'd worn since childhood, vibrated. Selket knelt and brushed dust from the altar. "This isn't the first time you've been here." Amira staggered. "What are you talking about?" Selket smiled. "It's memory, not madness. You are not the heir. "You are the vessel." Amira looked at the inscriptions again. The 9 returns. The 3 names. Her grandmother's face flashed in her mind. Not old and wrinkled, but young, radiant, and covered in blood. Then she remembered the stories, the ones her grandmother whispered in a strange dialect. Stories about the gods who feared women more than men. The skeleton on the altar convulsed, ribs rattling like drums. From the shadows, voices chanted, not in volume, but in vibration. The tomb thrummed with life. Selkit's body contorted. Her jaw cracked open, revealing not a throat, but a swirling void of symbols and darkness. The hieroglyphs on the wall glowed, and Amira screamed, not in fear, but in recognition. The charm burst into flame and vanished. Symbols seared themselves into her arms. Her eyes rolled back as ancient memory overtook her. The skeleton rose fully now. The bones clicked into place, forming not a human shape, but something taller, broader, crowned in shadows. "You were the last." Selkit's voice echoed from every corner. "Now we eat the sky." Amira's mouth opened on its own, and she spoke in the voice of Neferet, of Tia, of Sitre. "Let the gods run." Amira felt her heart slow. Her blood no longer beat with panic. It pulsed with purpose. Memory cascaded. Stone chambers lit by torchlight, chanting circles, the taste of divine flesh on her tongue. She remembered names she'd never heard and deaths she'd never lived. A mirror of water formed on the tomb floor. She looked down, and her reflection wasn't hers. It was 3 women layered over one another, blinking in sync. She was Neferet, cloaked in lion skins. She was Tia, eyes lined in ink and madness. She was Sitre, bleeding silently into the abyss. And she was something else, something new. The skeleton stepped toward her. Its presence pushed dust into spirals. Its missing skull hovered above the altar now, assembling piece by piece. Carved not from bone, but black stone etched with stars. The glyphs on the wall rearranged themselves. They no longer said, "Return." They said, "Ascend." Selkit knelt and bowed her head. The line is unbroken. The vessel is full. And then, the ceiling cracked. A single beam of sunlight struck Amira's face. Outside, something stirred in the sky. Not a cloud, not a storm. Something watching. Amira raised her hand, and the tomb obeyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back soon with even more knowledge to uncover. Stay tuned and let your curiosity grow with every story.